What is the most concerning misinformation you've heard about the human body? This question is inspired by my neighbor who just told me that styrofoam turns into glass inside your stomach. Ask your neighbor why there's styrofoam in his stomach. There isn't. There's glass. That people can stop their periods by thinking about it. Why didn't somebody tell me that in 1990 when mine started? Been doing it wrong for the past 35 years. Whoa. The 90s were only 15 years ago, okay? Thank you for correcting that tragic mistake. Or that women can hold it, like the cervix is the same as your bladder sphincter. Fucking infuriating. I just store my period in my balls. That's why the blood only comes out when I pee. That reminds me of a time in high school we had a male substitute teacher and my friend, a female, asked to go to the bathroom. He said no and she explained it was an emergency related to her period. He said to hold it. She asked, "What do you want me to do? Staple it shut?" I still laugh about it every time I remember. She was allowed to go after that. When I had to pump breast milk at work, my supervisor asked me why I couldn't pump before and after work and hold it during the day. You just have to really concentrate for 4 to 5 days and it will go away. You just have to hold it. It's so gross just letting it leak out of you. Have some self-control. Heavy sarcasm, just in case it wasn't clear. My dad was convinced that women have one rib more than men because Eve was made out of one of Adam's. This was something I heard growing up too, which seems like such a crazy thing to persist. Look, there's plenty I don't know about biology, but if you showed me a male and a female skeleton I could at least fucking count. My Catholic school teachers did not like when I counted the ribs on the skeleton models to show them they are wrong. I've had a man say to me that he doesn't like when women use tampons because it's similar to sex, and we get enjoyment out of it. Buddy boy, I can assure you that it's nowhere near sex. And that we have absolutely no enjoyment in inserting them or removing them. Not everything that goes into the vagina feels good. Stop sexualizing a very unsexy and uncomfortable act. Should have told him if he thinks they are similar that he must be incredibly bad at sex. Nah. You just stick it in and leave it there. That's exactly how you do the sex. Right? /s just in case that's necessary. I think your friends are supposed to jump on the bed too. Also, if it felt good, why is that bad? Like, why did he frame it as a bad thing? Women shouldn't find any pleasure outside of male penises? But on your point, tampons usually either feel uncomfortable or we don't feel them at all. Man obviously hasn't pulled dry cotton out of his vagina. Gosh, I didn't even think of that. Thanks for pointing it out. It's like, excuse me, you are not allowed to enjoy without a penis. Imagine feeling threatened by a tampon rolling on the floor laughing like having a penis is his entire life's purpose. Asterisk, without my penis. I dated a dude in high school who broke up with me and told everyone I'd cheated on him. I went to my gyno and had my yearly pap smear. My gyno back then was a man. My ex said that counts as cheating because you enjoyed it. Dude, first of all, no one, anywhere, ever has ever enjoyed a pap smear. Secondly, how/why do you assume I like it? He said, because you women like it when anything is in there. I definitely beg to differ. Ever had one of those long hairs stuck up there that feels so alien to pull out of you? Not pleasurable in any way. When I asked him if tampons were cheating too, he got this blank look on his face and said no, but said it like a question. You know where your voice gets higher at the end? What the fuck? On the bright side, at least the trash took itself out. I had a BF when I was 18 and in my freshman year of college who told me I shouldn't be using tampons because only he should be going inside me. Excuse me sir, WTF. I dumped him over that and he went online and told all my friends at the time that I was loose because I used tampons. Mind you, we never had sex. Everyone ignored him or put him on blast because he sounded stupid ASF. He was 27 when we dated, so that should have been the first red flag, but I was young and dumb. Oh. I'm sorry you're as small as a tampon. That must be difficult in the locker room. A lot of comments here are about the female reproductive system. Apparently, it's as mysterious as a black hole. As far as I'm concerned, there's only one black hole worth studying, am I right? It's called Sagittarius A. It's located in the center of our galaxy and it has the density of 40 suns. Just like my wiener. Edit. No guys, I'm not fixing it. It's a quote from the TV show Community. If it's wrong, blame Dan Harmon. Maybe not the most concerning, but that tampons make you lose your virginity. Beyond infuriating. This anything going in vagina means no more virginity is so weird to me. If a man uses a fleshlight, is he no longer a virgin? Are girls who need gyno work no longer virgins? Then again, there's people who unironically believe you just have an orgasm the second a tampon is put in and then you leave it there for funsies all day. I was in a psych ward with this 13-year-old girl some years back. She was heavily anorexic and went to a gyno there for an exam. He was so rough with her, he tore her hymen. He then told her she's no longer a virgin. Nothing ever came out of it, by the way, even though she told the nurses. She died 3 years ago, still believing she lost her virginity there to an examination rod. A male gyno told me pregnancy would be the solution for endometriosis because I wouldn't have period temporarily. When I said I didn't want to solve a temporary problem with a permanent one, he looked at me like I was crazy. He just couldn't fathom a woman not wanting to have kids. Oh my god. That's horrible. Considering that eating disorders often start after a highly traumatic event such as sexual assault, that was probably the worst thing he could have possibly said. Just created a whole new big T trauma event to someone who was already vulnerable in the extreme. It's effing sick. I'm so sorry the girl you knew lost her battle to the illness. I do hope you're doing okay these days. When I was 14 and asked my dad to take me to get tampons, he asked a male teenage worker from Walmart if tampons can de-virginize me. Certainly not the most concerning, but I hate it when people have this idea that large labia is equal to having a loose vagina. Utter nonsense. While we're at it, loose often means a woman is very excited. You actually want her to be nice and wet and relaxed. More than that, the term loose originated in reference to morality. A loose woman was a woman with iffy morals, not literally a loose vagina. Somehow general ignorance increased over time and that phrase morphed into referring to a vagina, which is absurd. Also, that having a lot of sex leads to a looser vagina. It is made of many muscles, not a sphincter or a uniform hole. It most often reverts from birthing a baby, for heaven's sake. Mysteriously, people that never think that having a lot of sex with them will lead to a looser vagina. Only with other people. Or the penis will eventually get smashed smaller and smaller. If you're sleeping around a lot as a man. Oh, that's the funniest to me, just cause of my raising. Her meat flaps are too flappy. She's got a bad vagina. Like no dipshit, those flaps are just flappy. It's like saying his foreskin is too much skin, so he has bad penis. A doctor once told me the cervix has no nerve endings. While I was crying from pain and almost fainting because she decided to grab my cervix with the speculum extra firmly and use 2 swabs for the pap sample instead of just 1, I quickly found another doctor. A few decades later and I'm cervix-free and greatly looking forward to less pain. But that was some bullshit and she used it to be abusive. When I requested to switch providers, I found out that I was not the only unhappy patient and in fact, they fired her a few months later. I've heard from a doctor that old anatomy books used to claim the cervix has no nerve endings. Of course it's been debunked, but I guess some people didn't get the memo. It's so dumb because if the patient is in pain, that means either your anatomy book is wrong or your technique is fucked and you have no idea what part you're grabbing. I'd rather be misinformed than incompetent. The female body has ways to shut that whole thing down. Rest in piss Todd Akin. Oh, he's dead. Guess his body found ways to shut down. It was a late-term abortion. Shameful. Sometimes you learn something about a person that you really like, even when you don't normally like that person. For instance, I don't normally like anything about Todd Akin, but I'm just now learning that he's dead, and I like that about him. Legitimate rape, Todd Akin. Shout out to my old trivia group in college, a Todd Akin's legitimate grape drink. Probably that myth that black people have thicker skin or higher pain tolerance. It's still prevalent in the medical field. I've read articles saying that women aren't believed as often as men when they say they're in pain, and that black women are believed exponentially less by medical professionals in the 21st century. Ironically, if black women are believed to have higher pain tolerance when they tell you and go to the doctor, their pain should be taken even more seriously. After all, they should have a high pain tolerance, so for them to complain, something must be really wrong. Maybe it is just racism after all. Right, exactly. If the threshold is higher, then it must be really bad. ETA, yeah, it's racism. We only use 10% of our brains. True for the people who say it. I had to scroll too far to find this one. This always scares me. How can people think that? I once overheard a woman in a store saying that she takes vitamins for horses because they are cheaper and come in larger packages. She said that a horse and a human are almost the same. Is she a centaur? Close. Her mother was a centaur and her father was a minotaur. She got a human upper half from her mom and a human lower half from her dad, meaning she's outwardly human but also pretty much a horse. I knew an old lady who swallowed a horse. She's dead, of course. But why did she swallow the horse? I simply must know. To catch the cow, presumably. NGL, back when I played softball in my teens, a lot of us, including myself, would use icy hot that was meant for horses, as it was just way stronger. The theory was that since horses have much bigger muscles than us, the manufacturers had to make the stuff stronger for it to penetrate all the way through. However, I have absolutely zero evidence of this, nor have I ever tried to find any either. I recently heard someone say, if you drink lemon water every day, you'll never get the common cold again. Thanks, vitamin C. I've seen weight loss influencers say drinking lemon water every morning will prevent loose skin after losing 100+ pounds. I drink lemon water every morning BC. It helps me get ready to eat breakfast, and that's all, folks. When my mother was in chemo, a friend of mine spammed me with miracle vitamin C cures for cancer. First of all, read the room. Secondly, take a flying fuck with that shit off a tall cliff. I drink lemon in my tea about 10 times a day. I get colds very frequently. If correlation equals causation, then I can say with confidence that lemons actually cause the common cold. When I was a kid, my dad used to tell me that girls were actually just boys who had cried too much and their penis had fallen off. So anytime I wouldn't stop crying, my dad would remind of this, and I'd force myself to stop in order to save my own dick. This one is the best from the whole post. I once had a coworker, young guy, who thought a woman's period was like pooping, that a woman could just hold it in if it was an inconvenient time. I had to take him aside and give him a crash course in what his school failed to teach. Watching the gears turn in his head as I explained things was both fascinating and disheartening. That the body will reject an unwanted pregnancy due to rape. Had a whole argument in college with two of my roommates who were insistent that birth control pills let you release eggs that are just infertile. Could not get them to understand why that was insane, or to understand that the idea is to not release an egg at all. The fact that vaccines can cause autism. It has been found, and been proven several times, that the doctor who published the study that led to the spread of this news was being paid to find a way to sue vaccine producers. So he set the study up in a way to make it look like vaccines cause autism. To this day, it is one of the worst examples on how a piece of misinformation can never be erased once it passes a certain amount of spread. Yup. Andrew Wakefield, IIRC. He was also found to have subjected nearly a dozen disabled children to what could be described as medical torture by subjecting them to unnecessary and painful procedures, and then falsifying their test results when they didn't fit his narrative. He's probably second only to RFK Jr. in terms of sheer quackery and dangerousness. But enough people were pulled into his bullshit that no matter how much evidence exists proving he's full of shit and actually hurt children, they just won't believe it. He also took blood samples from kids at his own child's birthday party, gave them some cash for doing so, then joked about it during a talk he gave later on. That ectopic pregnancies can be moved and still live. No, Becky, they can't. That ignorant politician clearly never passed sex ed. Once a pregnancy has implanted, that's it. That stem becomes the placenta and umbilical cord. The only treatment in 99.99% of cases is to end the pregnancy. Otherwise, both mother and fetus are almost guaranteed to die. It's either one dies or they both do. Especially if it's in the fallopian tube, they have the diameter of a spaghetti noodle. And the whole area has a massive blood supply. An 8-week pregnancy and its little sac is already the size of a large grape. Lots of people live in maternity care deserts. This is why abortion medications are essential to keep women alive. Look around at all the women of childbearing age around you, Becky. It could happen to any of them. Do they deserve to die for the sake of a doomed pregnancy? Having survived a burst ectopic pregnancy, I can tell you that most probably occur before a pregnancy is even discovered. 8 to 9 weeks is as long as it can last, and that's barely one missed period. Even then, no one would know it was in the fallopian tube. The idea of moving it is completely delusional.
Oh.
I have a lot. That you can have a woman swallow a camera and it can enter the uterus. Herd immunity is created from not being vaccinated as a community. If I hear some Botoxed up influencer say the words detox or inflammation, then try to sell a supplement one more time, I'm going to explode. The entire chiropractic practice as a whole, RFK Jr.'s entire platform, that we don't need doctors because the body was made to be able to heal and repair itself. If your blood sugar is too low, you need insulin. Portrayed in a lot of movies, giving an injection to fix a hypo, woman facepalming light skin tone. Portrayed in a lot of movies. Sorry, those were snuff films. Because that would absolutely kill someone. Source: my useless pancreas. The Diabetes Council in Australia ran a great ad back in the 1990s that explained really simply the relationship between blood sugar and insulin for diabetics. They used jelly babies as the central characters, stating that in the event of too much insulin, a jelly baby could save a life. It was a 30-second ad that was concise and informative while calling for donations for research. High-quality ads like that are something we're now missing as we move away from FTA TV. Women don't feel any pain in their cervix because there are no nerve endings located there. This was actually the scientific belief until far too recently, that some people believe a broken hymen means they're no longer a virgin. Hymens can break in a number of ways, and can still remain intact after sex. And many women don't even have a hymen. Plus it often doesn't break, it just stretches. Period blood needs to come out somehow. Women can close their vaginas if they don't want to have sex. Therefore, our at P hashtag isn't possible unless she wants it. Bleck. I hated even typing that out. Men can retract their balls into their abdomen, so if they get kicked in the nuts, they obviously wanted it to happen/s. Holy dude, people actually think that? Give credit for this to Todd Atkins, the evangelical GOP congressman. Prayers to the Almighty for taking this scum away from us. Usually anything with the word toxins in it, but specifically, those people who are trying to cure autism with bleach. Not concerning, but just annoying. You do not catch a cold from being in the cold without a jacket or from the weather. You catch a cold from a pathogen. Idaho representative thinks a woman can swallow a camera pill for OB/GYN doctors to perform a remote exam. I was raised as a Christian Scientist, not a real scientist though, and was basically told that sickness is just in your head and you gotta pray it away or have somebody else do it. It's weird, but people seem to die pretty young in that religion. Probably that one politician who said women's bodies can reject rape sperm. The absence of information can be just as harmful as misinformation. My grandma tells a story that when she had her first child, she didn't know what makes a woman become pregnant, got the birds and the bees talk from the nurses in the delivery room while she was going into labor. That's not great, and a product of those times. Rumor went around one of the high schools I attended. Apparently, shaking up a bottle of soda and spraying it inside the girl would prevent pregnancy. I physically recoiled in horror when one of my friends told me they'd done it. Looks at RFK Jr. Looks at camera. That men need sex. Newsflash, men aren't special. A good sex life can improve the overall quality of any person's life. Women think about and want sex too. None of us need it. You can't get pregnant while breastfeeding, because you do not have your period. That's not true. The difference between is statistically less likely and can't is too subtle for most people. That women can't get pregnant from rape. Missouri pride right here. Republican politician, Todd Akin, shares his thoughts on rape and pregnancy. It seems to me, from what I understand from doctors, that is really rare. If it's a legitimate rape, the female body has ways to try to shut that whole thing down. I've heard a lot, but the most horrifying one that I've only seen once was some guy who thought that a clit and a vagina were interchangeable terms, and when his GF said her clit doesn't have a hole, he said he'd make one. Surprised face. Tylenol causes autism. My mom must have taken that extra strength Tylenol. I follow a law channel from called Mike Rafi, and I just learned about this class action lawsuit. Man, I've been taking 1,000 milligrams of acetaminophen every 10 hours for 2 years. I have so much autism I am a be rich AF. A professor in an anatomy class I took a while back, who was a chiropractor, I should add, told us that the reason LSD is called acid is because it melts tiny holes in your brain. Acids, bases, and how things absorb into the bloodstream are among the earliest things you learn in anatomy and physiology. And that's a hard class. Usually people that dumb don't make it through the class. So I genuinely have no clue what this guy was thinking. It seems like basic knowledge that acidic does not mean cartoonish green acid that eats through everything. I'm not saying the drug is completely harmless, but it feels really stupid and dangerous to spread that kind of misinformation to people studying to become doctors and nurses. Every pro-life billboard in Ohio, they are blatantly spreading misinformation disguised as facts. I do ultrasound for a living. Believe me when I tell you that a fetus does not have fingerprints or a heartbeat 18 days after conception. I promise. It doesn't even have skin yet, much less fingerprints. The closest they have is an ectoderm that will later develop into skin and the nervous system at that point. In fact, it is not even a fetus at that point, it is an embryo until 8 or 9 weeks. That women's bodies hold onto semen/DNA of every man they've had sex with. The vagina gets permanently stretched out and loose from having sex. Washing your ass is gay. Babies don't benefit from breast milk any more than formula. Circumcision has health benefits. My stomach legitimately churned at reading, washing your ass is gay. You know those MFs have crusty ass skid marks nauseated face. That first one was wild. What gets me about this one is that even if it was true, that would just be a natural feature of how human reproduction worked. And quite frankly, women are taking on all the risks. Why shouldn't we hold on to DNA and swap out the substandard stuff? I was at a consultant appointment for an upcoming surgery. I had had scans done to check if I could manage the surgery and was told that my ligaments and tendons are too fragile/weak. While there I asked the consultant if I could have a letter sent to me about the findings. They asked why and I explained that I was applying for disability as I'd been wheelchair-bound for months at this point and had lost my job. The doctor confidently and happily said, "Why? You don't need disability benefits. You could use your condition to become an Olympic gymnast." I pointed out that I was just confirmed to be too fragile for surgery, and that surgery was meant to prevent my knees and ankles from dislocating every day. "But you're so flexible it doesn't matter. They would be amazed by you. You could get a gold medal." I pointed out that gymnastics involved a lot of skill, muscle, and precision. Me being flexible doesn't mean much if I can't even stand up reliably. The guy just kept going on about me winning a gold medal. "Please report this man to his medical board. That people need to do cleanses to remove toxins. Your body has organs for that. If those organs stop working you need dialysis, not celery juice." Literally anything the vocal portion of men say about women's bodies. That having frequent sex causes a woman's vagina to get looser. Correlation is causation. One person's anecdote with some supplement likely doesn't apply to yours. Research studies in medicine that have any amount of certainty for general conclusions require tens of thousands of people to verify, and even then said studies cannot generalize outside populations who are not well represented. Honestly, just asking a man basic questions about women's anatomy will get you a pretty alarming answer. A guy I dated in college informed me that lycopene was good for my prostate. Just yesterday on Reddit a guy believed prepubescent girls don't have a uterus. I was involved with, it was all awful, forgive me, a man who convinced all women menstruated on th first of each month. Because, that's how they did it in the army. When I had my monthly arrive around the 20th or whatever and declined vaginal sexual activities he freaked all the way out. Mind-blowing, particularly given he had a mother and sisters. I got unbelievable amounts of shit at work from the other guys because I keep extra tampons in my car in case my wife needs them. They were under the impression that it's unnecessary because she knows exactly when she's going to need them. On Jeopardy a few months ago the clue was, it's a temporary organ that provides nutrients to a growing fetus, and some guy buzzed in and confidently said a uterus. Love referring to mine as a temporary organ now. My freckly friend dated a guy one time who thought she was just perpetually dirty and tried to scrub her freckles off her arm. Same guy also was confused about why she, a woman who had never been pregnant, wasn't lactating. Can confirm, male friend didn't know women had urethras until he was nearly 18. Genuinely thought pee came from the vagina. The number of men who think sex involves penetrating the cervix. A boatload of alarming answers. You would probably get some alarming answers if you ask men about their own internal anatomy as well. Not as alarming as the answers they will give about female anatomy, but beyond the penis and testicles they don't seem to know a lot about their own anatomy either. One of the most revealing experiences in my life as a cis man who paid attention to science classes in school was two friends of a friend hitting on me because I knew the urethra and the vaginal canal aren't the same hole. I have diabetes. I could go on and on about the cures people have peddled. But have you tried a chiropractor? My son's teacher told him blood is blue in the body. Wow. I was today years old when I found out my 8th grade biology teacher was an idiot and blue veins is an optical illusion based on how light refracts through the skin. Breastfeeding prevents pregnancy. That if a woman gets pregnant from rape, she must have wanted it because the female body has a way to shut that whole thing down. Never forget Congressman Todd Akin. Anything coming out of a chiropractor's mouth. Vaccines cause autism. The vague and latest quackery buzzword, inflammation. According to influencers with no medical education, questionable critical thinking skills, and/or a degree in snake oil sales, it's everywhere. All over your body, inside and out, and it moves around to all your organs. Yikes. As someone with Crohn's disease, you will know when you have inflammation to be concerned about. That's a really annoying one because understanding the mechanics of inflammation better really would be a medical game changer, but just chanting inflammation like you learned the name of the demon inhabiting your favorite goat is not gonna expel the staying up until the 2 drinking plus never. Walking anywhere from your body. No sorry, that's actually true. 3 days ago, I was driving home and there was inflammation in my car. Couldn't use the wing mirrors, it was so bad. But thankfully I got home and drank turmeric cleanse, that was so good I was able to remove my liver and just drink that instead. I feel like this goes hand in hand with taking supplements to activate or boost your immune system. Isn't an activated immune system just a fever, runny nose, maybe some inflammation? As someone with an autoimmune disease that comes with painful inflammation, I'm trying to get my immune system to calm the fuck down. I mean, it might be stupid in how they present it, but systemic inflammation is a real health concern. Chronic inflammatory diseases are collectively the top killer worldwide.